Don't go anywhere, stay tuned. Get ready to take a trip down memory lane. That table can only mean one thing. We'll be checking out our PlayStation collection. Alright, I might have shown off my PlayStation collection once before, I'm not sure. But it's the end of the year, so the collection does constantly grow. So let's check out our PlayStation collection. I'll show you my PlayStation collection right here. We'll start off with the long cases. We got Battle Tushiden 2. Battle Arena Tushiden, that's correct. And this case right here is actually not too bad. I usually hate long case games, but this one actually has, it's made out of like plasticky cardboard, so it doesn't really crack. You got the disc in there, and you got the huge manual right here, and everything is like covered in some pretty cool artwork. Look at that, that's pretty cool. And these cases hold up. But then you have cases like this. You have Mortal Kombat 3, and you can see that it's cracked. Not surprising. And you have Mortal Kombat 3, you have a huge skull on there. This game I never really cared to play too much, because I have Mortal Kombat Trilogy. It's definitely my favorite. But you can see the long case that this thing comes in. It has a little styrofoam piece right here to try to prevent anything from crazy happening from the disc. And you can see some advertisements for Battle Arena Toshin, Warhawk, Twisted Metal 1, which is one of my favorites, and Ridge Racer. And then of course we have Tekken 1. I guess back in '95, if you owned the PlayStation, you were forced to buy these big, huge, gigantic cases. And you see in the back of here, this the back of this case, like the description, the artwork, and the way everything's laid out, looks almost bootleg. This doesn't look PlayStation-y looking at all. It looks very, very weird. This is the first Tekken, so it wasn't really that great. Then once Tekken 2 and 3 came out, things changed. Alright, so got a few more long case games here. Agile Warrior F. What the hell does that say there? 7? F7? And this appears to be some sort of flight simulator. Just so you can see the inside of it, let's see if we can pop it open here. And these particular cases hold up. Better than the plastic ones, but still, they're so huge. It's ridiculous. I don't like these big ass cases. I really don't like them at all. And you got King's Field, another game that I happened to run into, I guess. Not exactly sure how I got these games, to be honest. They might have came from a lot. We've got some sort of King's Field card in here. Prepaid hint card. So apparently you call that number, you can actually enter that code in right there, and it gives you a hint. Now that is interesting. You got some PlayStation stuff right here. I actually own 2 of those right there. Maybe I'll pull those out and show those to you guys at the end of the video, if I remember. Alright, so I got one more long case game up here. I'm going to see if I can pull this down without knocking things down here. Let's see here. WrestleMania the arcade game, a long disc, or long cased boxed copy of this, and of course the box is probably not in the greatest shape. You see that scratched up. But this is definitely one of my favorite PlayStation games. And this long case game is definitely one that you see right there, it comes apart easily, even though it's not cracked. Seems like it's a little warped. So, anyways, You have Street Fighter the movie advertised on the back of the manual. So let's see if we can get this back together. Now those are the long cased games that I own for the PlayStation. I don't think I own any others. I don't see any others around anywhere. Just a possibility I might own another one somewhere else. Alright, so let's show off some of the loose games. So here we have, I'm going to show off some loose games right here. Battle Gundam Assault, great fighting game. Then we got the second one right here, another great fighting game. We have Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. And again, much like the Sega Saturn, I own a decent amount of loose games for the PlayStation only because it saves room. With Shadow Blade 2, and it's also cheaper. Tobo number 1, which is a 60 frames per second fighting game. Ridge Racer Type 4. We got Die Hard Trilogy Part 2. We got Die Hard Trilogy, the first one. We have Strider, which I believe that this disc is mislabeled somehow. And of course we have Ridge Racer Revolution. And one of my favorites, Roll Cage, and it has like some sort of rental code on the top right there. Probably came from a rental place. WCW versus the World. The first WCW game on the PlayStation. And of course, the first wrestling game I've ever played on the PlayStation, Power Move Pro Wrestling by Activision. And then we have SmackDown 2, Know Your Role. Definitely a must-have if you own a PS1. We got Project Horned Owl. It's a great light gun game on the PlayStation. It works quite well. We got Road Rash 3D. And those for you who are familiar with Road Rash, you basically ride around you drive a motorcycle, and you basically try to knock your opponent off his motorcycle with whatever weapons you have. Area 51, this is another interesting light gun style game. Never really cared for it too much. And then we have Battle Arena Toshinden Part 1, and this is not for resale. So this leads me to believe that this is like a bundle, excuse me, it's like a bundle game right here. A not for resale copy of Battle Arena Toshinden. That's interesting. I didn't even notice that until now. And we have our Risk. There's nothing really exciting about that. Then we have a Tomb Raider Part 2. Look at that. Got Lara Croft right there with the gun. She's smiling. Alright, so let's get this cleared off, and now we're going to move on to standard cased games. We'll start off with the American games. And at the end, we'll also show off the different variations of how games are stored in these weird cases, both the Japanese and American. I guess we'll start off with these two games right here. We have Thrasher's Skate and Destroy, which is, I recently bought this at Game Exchange for $19.95, and back in the day I bought this game for $9.99 at Walmart when it went on a discount. And we have Driver, which I believe the disc is missing, so I have to actually hunt for that. So technically that doesn't count at the moment, but I still have the case for it. And I have a feeling that I might be missing cases, because I think some of those loose copies, I actually have the cases to those games, so I don't know where they are. So we have Army Men Air Attack. And as mentioned, some of those loose games I do have cases for, but when you move, and you have things in storage, things get misplaced. You have Armed Core. Now this case feels kind of thicker for some reason. I don't know why. Let me see if this is true. It's about the same size. I don't know why. It feels definitely like different. And we have Midway's Greatest Hits. Got some arcade games right here. We should definitely check that out. Now this was picked up at Game Exchange for $12.90. Was it $12.95? Then I found this over at a Goodwill. You can see the $2.99 sticker. Ape Escape for $2.99. And the disc and the manual, everything's in there. But this goes to show you sometimes when you shop in Goodwill, you probably might find a good deal. Now that was a Goodwill over in Connecticut I went to. And we have Alone in the Dark, the new Nightmare. And I believe this is like a 2-disc game. It's definitely quite the scary game. Then we have Air Combat by Namco. And I guess this game is kind of similar to Ace Combat. I guess it's an arcade style jet flying game. You have to go around blowing stuff up. Then we have another PlayStation arcade classic right here. It's a collection of Activision classic games for the Atari 2600. Picked this one up at Game Exchange. Could not resist. Why not? Let's play some Atari 2600 on the PlayStation. It's like an early example of emulation. And here's one I actually picked up at Goodwill. Never actually played it, but it's Action Bass. I have no idea. I think that says, what was that, Take-Two? Is that what that says? Yeah, Take-Two. So, Action Bass, rated E for everyone. $1.99 at Goodwill. Next up on the list, we have Diablo for the PlayStation, and it's 2-player edition, I guess. We got Deception 2, made by Temco. And this is a pretty cool game. And you see that there's like a little cutout of how to do certain things in this game. Looks like a little cheat code or something like that. And it looks like a Deception Part 1. Now of course we have a copy of Driver 2. Now this was a huge deal when it came out. Then all of a sudden Grand Theft Auto 3 came out and overshadowed it completely. And then we have Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22. And then we have a Clock Tower for the PlayStation. Quite the scary game. Something we might check out, who knows. Then we have a Bushido Blade Part 1 right here. Now I definitely know I have the case for Part 2 somewhere, which currently the game is loose on the paper sleeve. Alright, moving right along. Let's see if we can get these all taken care of here. We got Final Fantasy VII Black Label Edition. Everything's still inside the case, all that stuff. Got the manual, we got all the discs. That's a game that I picked up at Goodwill for probably $2.99. Believe it or not. Got Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy Anthology. We got one of my favorites right here, Fighting Force. Definitely, you can see that these cases, they get cracked easily. So that's the problem of moving from one location to another. You have to take chances, and you got Fighting Force 2. And here's one that I paid quite a bit for. It was Elemental Gear Bolt. It's a light gun RPG style game. It's a really weird hybrid game. Alright, so this is the first portion of my collection. I'm going to move on to the next shelf right here. Stay tuned. I'm just going to clear the table off. Alright, so I'm going to show off my second shelf of games right here for the PlayStation. And this is the second time I'm recording this. Apparently my camera decided to not behave, to say the least. We have Hydro Cross, brand new copy. As you can see there. We have incredible prices for $1.99 from Goodwill. We have a really poor man's copy of Lethal Enforcer 1 and 2, and that is a very poor man's printed out paper label. And of course at Goodwill I found these 3 games. I definitely picked these up. Grand Theft Auto 1, Grand Theft Auto 2, and Grand Theft Auto London 1969. $6 for all 3 of these. That was definitely worth it. One thing that I can tell you is when I collect games I tend to hit up, of course, classic gaming stores and Goodwills. And just for the record, a lot of gaming YouTube channels accept donations and try to beg for money, or maybe not beg for money, but they accept YouTube users sending them money and all that stuff, especially over live streams and things like that. And not once have I ever asked for money or donations, so that's something I'm proud of. Everything that you see here I bought. So I actually bought it. Got Gran Turismo. You see, I work another job, so this is basically like a second job to me making these videos. We got the Namco Museum Volume 1, Pac-Man World, and anytime you see these little price stickers on it, that definitely came from a Goodwill. So as mentioned, I work my main job, which I'm not going to say what it is, but you know, I make enough to get by, and I tend to collect games with whatever spare money I have left over. We got Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, and I enjoy making videos for you guys, as you can see here. We got Lilo and Stitch, and I'm not exactly sure where I got this game from. It's Monopoly. More than likely that came from a lot, so I would probably never have bought that game regularly. Let's see if we can point the light down here. So my camera is getting a little dark. Alright, I guess that's better. Grid Runner, Gran Turismo 2, you know, the normal stuff here. There's another Goodwill. Looks like it was $7.99 at a GameStop or someplace at one time, and Goodwill had it for $1.99. And depending on what day of the week it is, occasionally you might actually get that half price, so I might have even got that for $1. Yeah, one of my favorite games right here, Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the PlayStation. It's definitely one of my go-to must-have games. Got Ridge Racer, the greatest hits copy, and you see that the case is cracked. You know, some my cases are not in the greatest shape, because I've moved them around quite a bit. And here's another Game Exchange by Hubert for $6.95. That's Atari game for the PlayStation. And I picked it up and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. Something we can check out soon. We got Persona for the PlayStation right here. It's a double discer. We got Parasite Eve for the PlayStation. These are games that I probably would never play, but definitely came across it somewhere for a good price. We got Road Cage 2. And we got Road Rash Jailbreak, and there we go with the Goodwill pricing. And more than likely, I bought these like over 10 years ago at a Goodwill. So they may cost more now if you go to a Goodwill and find PlayStation games. I'm not exactly sure. And then we have a copy of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And, this appears to be a copy of Resident Evil 2. And of course, someone had to write their name on it, but I did come across this somewhere. And let's look at the next batch of PlayStation games that I own. Just stay tuned. Alright, moving right along, we have a copy of Twisted Metal 2 with the disc missing. I would like to know where that disc went. It's one of my favorite games. And we have another copy of Twisted Metal 2. This is the greatest hits, and this is the not so greatest hits. This is the one that came out beforehand, and there is the disc right there. And we have ourselves a copy of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Second edition. It says join the PlayStation Underground, it's free. So let's see if we can get this open, and of course this case does not want to open up. Then we have a WCW versus NWO Thunder. Definitely a very enjoyable arcade style wrestling game. A lot of people give it hell for not being the greatest, but I thought the game was actually pretty fun. Alright, let's move on to the next game here. WCW Nitro. And both Thunder and Nitro had some pretty cool unlockable characters and stages, like a lot of over-the-top stuff. Then we had WCW Mayhem. Now that's where things took a turn to more simulation style. And it was actually a pretty decent game. And then all of a sudden this came out. WCW Backstage Assault. And there's very little good things to be said about this game. This game is pretty bad. And then we have WWF in your house. Excuse me for a second there. We got WWF in your house for the PlayStation. And originally I owned this game on the PC. And it worked on DOS or Windows 95 or something like that. And it was actually pretty good. And that's your roster right there. You have the Ultimate Warrior, you have Vader, Ahmed Johnson. Basically, if you like WrestleMania the arcade game, it's basically the same thing, but quite a bit more over the top. And then we have this legendary game right here, WWF Attitude for the PlayStation. And I remember back in the day when that game came out, everybody wanted it. It was like the must-have wrestling game. Yeah, what else do we have here? We have Time Crisis for the PlayStation. It's a nice light gun style game, and the case is in pretty good shape. And we have ourselves another Goodwill find. Test Drive 4 for $2.99 at Goodwill. Then we have a destroyed, beat up copy of Tekken 3. Now that's another great game to have, and just in case that one doesn't work, I have another greatest hits copy of Tekken 3. You see the case definitely has some cracks in it here and there. More than likely, I'll probably replace these cases eventually. They're pretty easy to take apart. So we have Tekken 2. Tekken 2 was an okay game. I didn't really care for it too much. And of course we have Tekken 1. I'd probably say that between Tekken 1 and 2, I would still rather play Virtual Fighter 2 and Fighter Mega Mix on the Saturn. But then when Tekken 3 came out, it was pretty fun. We have Tamba 2 for the PlayStation. Definitely a great platformer. And we have Tamba Part 1, and you see these cases are in really good shape. Those are well taken care of. And we have Tomb Raider Part 1, and it appears that we have a weapon cheat right here in the bottom, just in case you want to cheat. Now that almost looks like, let's see, X, Y, X, Z, Z. That almost looks like a Sega Saturn code. That is interesting. Oh, here we go. Here's another code right here. This appears to be the PlayStation code right here. And then we have Tomb Raider 2. And then once again, we have some sort of something going on here. You can skip a level, you can do all weapons and something else. You know, back then in gaming magazines, they would actually give you cheat codes to use on games. You don't see that too much anymore. And we have Tomb Raider 3 for the PlayStation. And once again, we have a level skipper, all weapons, and you know, all that good stuff. Maybe we'll try that out sometime. And we got more stuff here. Definitely one of my favorites, Soul Blade. Look at that. Definitely, basically the first version of Soul Calibur. Then we have ourselves a copy of Silent Hill. Then I found this very, very happily at a Goodwill for $1.99, Sledstorm. Definitely a great game. It's definitely well worth more than that. But that I picked up right away. And then we have a Soviet Strike. Suikoden, which I don't know too much about this game, but it's definitely not in its original case, because that says Windows 95 Power Mac. No, just for the hell of it. Yeah, that's definitely the disc. I don't know what the hell this is referring to. Then we have a Siphon Filter Part 2, which at one time appears to be $14.99 at some sort of location. And this case is definitely beat up quite a bit. And then we have Sydney 2000 for the PlayStation for $1.99 at Goodwill. So moving right along, I'm going to clear the table off and let's show off the next batch. Alright, so here we are back. And the next couple of batches that I'm going to be showing off will be Japanese PlayStation games. So we'll start off with Armored Core for the PlayStation. You got the Japanese name right there and the American English name here. Then you have what is this called? Armored Core Project Phantasm. And you can see that these cases, when they shipped all the way from Japan, they didn't quite make it in good shape. And then we have Ace Combat for the PlayStation. And you see this game does not have English on either spine, so it's in Japanese. And then we do have Ace Combat 2, which does have an English side to it, and for whatever reason, the little PlayStation portion of that is like purple. I've never seen that before. And then we have this game right here called The Aquanauts Holiday, which I don't know too much about this game, but again, I bought probably a big huge lot from Japan. And this appears to be some sort of underwater game. And maybe we could check it out sometime. And that must be like a price on it. And then in Japan they have these weird spine labels right here. You'll never see that over here, because we really don't care about that stuff. And then we have a GT All Japan Grand Touring Car Championship. So I guess it's some sort of like Gran Turismo type game. And this is something that probably only exists in Japan. See, that's the title of it right there. We got various different cars here. It's a little screenshot of what it looks like. You can definitely check that out sometime. And then we have Bomberman World for the PlayStation. And then we have this brand new game right here, Burstrick Wakeboarding. And that gives you an example of what the spine label kind of looks like when it's brand new. It's kind of wrapped up. And to be honest, I did not want to have a brand new game, but for whatever reason, this is brand new. You still have that little PlayStation little seal thing right there. You can see that. Would have rather have it open so I can play it. And then of course we have a Cool Borders game that's brand new. Sealed. Definitely did not want to have a sealed copy of the game, because I would rather be able to play it. But that's not the case. It's brand new. So we also have a copy of Cool Borders 2. And a lot of these games are probably cheaper to buy in Japan than over here in the US. So we have also Cool Borders 3, which someone put the spine label right there on top of the manual. And we have Cool Borders Part 4. Then we have a Choro Q version 1.02, which is weird. I don't know where they came up with that version number right there. That's really weird. It's made by Takara. And this is one of those obscure Choro Q racing games. And here's a really good shooter. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. I think it's Einhander. Einhander. I always pronounced it Einhander. But again, I don't know exactly the proper way to pronounce that title. And it's made by Squaresoft. It's one game that I would like to see remade in HD. That would be pretty cool. And then it looks like we have Gunbarrel. I believe that's how that's pronounced. It looks like a light gun game made by Namco. Now the unusual thing in Japan, that usually Namco is pronounced Namcot. So for whatever reason they have the American Namco title right there, rather than the Japanese one. And then we have Gun Bullet. I guess they called it Namco in Japan also, because there's another Namco logo. It's another light gun style game. And then we have a Japanese copy of Gran Turismo. You see the cases are weird and different. It's not like a double case, it's a little bit thicker than a normal case, but it's not quite a double case. This is a Japanese copy of Gran Turismo 2. And just for example, you can see the differences in cases. A single case, a double case, and whatever you want to call that. It's definitely a weird looking case. And then we have Baldi Land. And I don't know too much about this game, but for whatever reason I own it. And again, I have been collecting games for years, and not once have I took donations or accepted money from people. This all hard-earned, paid for games that I paid for myself. Usually I buy bulks, that's what it is, so I end up with a lot of games that I honestly don't know what the hell they are. And that is another game that appears to be a shooter or something. And don't ask me to read that Japanese right there, but you can see the title. So last time I tried to read Japanese on a Super Famicom game, I butchered it. You guys probably laughed at me. And we have a very, very thick case of Tomb Raider 3, which I'm actually pretty intrigued to know why this is so thick. Like, what the hell is inside this case? There's a Tomb Raider 3 Japanese version and Tomb Raider 3 International version. What the hell? Now that is weird. That's really weird. So what is this? The Japanese copy and then the North American copy? That's something we'll have to check out. I never even knew that existed. That is really weird. I didn't know that until now. It's a good thing that we're going through this collection here. We have a Ridge Racer Type 4. And this is another really thick case. And on the first copy right here is this Real Racing Roots 99 Grand Prix. And Namco Catalog 98. That might be a demo disc. Might be able to check that out. Then we have another game here called Depth. And this appears to be another weird underwater game. And once again, it's inside one of those big, huge cases. I guess these cases were quite the popular thing over in Japan. You can put the manual right here, close the case, and there you go. And you have the PlayStation logo on the very bottom. And here's another V-Rally Championship Edition, another thick case. And for no reason at all, this very, very thick case for a single disc. Maybe the manual is a little bit thicker. See, this is what the manual looks like right here. So I guess it might be a little bit more thicker than the American manual. And it looks like they got a full color manual too, as you can see. So over in Japan, they got better manuals than we did over here in the US. We usually got a very thin manual that fit inside the case, and that was it. And we got this racing game right here. I don't know what's this called, Hyper Rally. I don't know too much about that game, but something we can check out. Now this is a game, Road to Suzuki. And it looks like some sort of... I don't know what that is. It looks like you're in some sort of very, very physical contest. It's made by Konami, by the way. That's interesting. It's like some sort of TV game. You got Metal Jacket Real-Time Battle Simulator. So this appears to be some sort of Gundam type thing, to say the least. And speaking of Gundam, we do have Mobile Suit Gundam for the PlayStation. Then we have another Mobile Suit Gundam for the PlayStation, version 2.0, which I just don't understand that at all. Like, what the hell is the difference between 1 and 2.0? And then we have another Mystery Gundam game on the PlayStation, which it doesn't have any name at all. Well, actually on the site it does. What's this say? Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack. And then we have another Mobile Suit Gundam game on the PlayStation where you can go skiing. Just kidding. This is Winter Olympics 1998. I think I have this on the 64. Pretty sure I do. And then we have this from TV Animation One Piece Grand Battle. You can see that. Another, I guess, a fighting game. These games are more common nowadays than they were back then. Then we have Rally Cross. In the standard case, you can see the action on the back. Looks pretty good. And then we have Pepsi Man. Hey, look at this. Nice, expensive copy of Pepsi Man on the PlayStation. And definitely always wanted to own a copy of this game. And eventually I bought it. Alright, so let's move on to the next batch of PlayStation games. So let me know down below if you're impressed so far. Alright, moving right along to the next batch of PlayStation games. If you're keeping count, I want to see if you can give me a total number down below, because I have no idea how many PlayStation games I actually own, to be honest. I never actually counted them. It's like probably over 100. We have a K1 GP 2000. It's like a kickboxing type game. That's another game that's inside one of those thick cases that you'll find normally over in Japan. It's really weird. Then we have this game called The Wrestler. You can see a picture of a random wrestler right there on top with a belt that almost looks like a WCW belt. And it is some sort of wrestling game. Probably based off the SmackDown engine. It's really weird. And this is one of those sample 1500, volume 22. And then you have one of these games right here, which is probably either a New Japan game or a All Japan game. And I honestly don't know which one. It'll probably say on the back. Let's see here. It doesn't really say anywhere. So this is definitely a wrestling game of some sort. It's probably All Japan Pro Wrestling. And of course, this is probably the second. I don't know what wrestling game this is either. It does have, what's it say here? Pro Wrestling Singo Kuden 2. I believe that's what that says. Let's see if we can focus that camera here for a second. Camera does not want to behave, but anyways. This appears to be another wrestling game of some sort. You can see on the back. Let's see if we can get a little closer here. That almost looks like a steel cage match. Kinda looks like a cage right there. That looks like you might be creating a wrestler, and that looks like a bloody mess. It looks like barbed wire almost right there. I don't know what the hell this game is. And as you already know, or may not know, I am a wrestling fan. And I love wrestling games, so that's something we might check out. We also have a demo disc. This is an American demo disc, by the way. I forgot to actually mention that, but yeah. We have a demo disc, so that's something we have, and let's look at the rest of this. Looks like we have some sort of cutesy looking hamster game. Look at all these stickers. Look at this. What is this game? Runabout. Tutoko Hamtardo, is that what that says? Hamutaru. We got all these like weird looking creature hamster stickers on here. And they're very, very Japanese looking stickers. And for whatever reason, someone stuck those all over the case. And this case has definitely seen some better days, by the way. You can definitely see that. But this appears to be some sort of racing game where you have to drive around all over the place. And yeah, someone tagged it up with some hamster stickers. And then we have Rage Racer, made by Namco. And I guess it's like a crazier version of Ridge Racer. And of course we have Ridge Racer Revolution. You can see there you got a nice complete copy of that, and we got Ridge Racer. And in Japan they have a second copy of Ridge Racer, which has 60 frames per second. I don't know if this is the copy or not, but it might be the copy, I'm not sure. But there is a copy of Ridge Racer that has a much higher frame rate than the American copy for the PlayStation over in Japan. So keep that in mind if you ever collect Japanese PlayStation games. Now there's Space Griffin VF9. And now look at the label art on this. This is incredible. And I love the Japanese like Gundam mech looking artwork. Look at that, that is insane. And there is no screenshots on the back. But that is enough to make you want to play this game. I don't know what this game is, but that's pretty cool. Now we have Street Games 97. And this appears to be like one of those 2 extreme, 3 extreme games. What else do we have here? We have Street Borders. Some sort of really obscure skateboarding game over in Japan. That is really interesting. Got the Tetris. It's known as the Tetris, and it's a Super Light 1500. It's a little Tetris game here for the PlayStation, released over in Japan. Not sure if it ever made it to the US. Most of these games are probably not released in the US. And then we have Tetris Plus. Another Tetris game. And we have another obscure, weird copy of Tomb Raider 2 for the PlayStation, the Japanese PlayStation. You see there, that's definitely interesting. Now, this is out of curiosity. Okay, the other version I had, it was Tomb Raider 3. So we have 2 and 3 for the PlayStation. Battle Tushinden Part 2, which came in a normal case. I like the American copy. It came in a big, huge, annoying, long case. Then we got Tricky Sliders, made by Capcom, and it looks like some sort of Cool Borders type deal. And what else do we have here? Let's see. We have Philosoma. Is that correct? Philosoma. What is this? Looks like it might be some sort of shooter or something. And then we got Real Robots Final Attack. And this appears to be some sort of mech game. And then we have one of those Capcom fighting games here. Vampire Savior. I guess if you like Street Fighter, there's a screenshot here, you might actually enjoy playing this game. And then what we have here is Extreme. Alright, this is X Games Pro Border. X Games Pro Border, which again I never actually played this before. It's endorsed by ESPN. And then we have a Zap Snowboarding Tricks 98. And I do have a Zap snowboarding game on the Sega Saturn, which I guess this might be a second sequel to that game. We'll have to check that out. And it looks like we have some sort of Ultraman game here. That's what it looks like to me. And there is no English translation for what this is. I'm not exactly sure what the proper term of what this game is. I don't know. But there it is. I think it might be an Ultraman game. I could be wrong. And we have another game that has like no translation at all. But here it is. It looks like some sort of airplane flying game right here. And it's probably one of those weird games that only released in Japan. And here we have more games that... Actually right here it says Kotobuki Grand Prix, so that's probably what this game's called, but that's probably the only translation for what this is. It looks like some sort of racing game, and it almost looks like scooters. It looks like a really goofy racing game. It looks like something that's over the top, so you know, that's something that we can definitely check out. And we got another one of those simple 1500 games right here, and it looks like a gun. Maybe a light gun game, I'm not sure. There's really no translation for what this is. But you can easily look up Simple 1500 Volume 24 and it'll tell you exactly what that is. It might be the shooter or something stupid like that. And here is another racing game. Not racing, wrestling game that is. You see some screenshots on the back. And there's something that we can probably check out in the future. It's definitely a New Japan Pro Wrestling because it says NJPW right there. So it's a New Japan Pro Wrestling, the second copy, and I guess the other one was the first copy. This might be the first copy right here. I'm not sure. Got all those cool looking title belts right there. Look at that. So here we have another racing game. We have Antonio Inaki right there. No, is that? No, that's Giant Baba. This is probably Antonio Inaki. And what he does is he likes to slap people in the face. If you don't believe me, look it up on YouTube. People pay, instead of getting his autograph, they pay to get slapped in the face by him. And this is probably an All Japan Pro Wrestling game right here. And here we are with another New Japan Pro Wrestling game. Definitely a dead giveaway. You got the logo right there in the center. Got a classic New Japan Pro Wrestling game made by Tommy. Now this is obviously something that only released in Japan in 1995. So you probably have a really interesting looking roster from back then. And then you have Hyper Tag Match Pro Wrestling. And this, very little is known about this, but it's definitely not your normal wrestling game, I guess, because it doesn't look 3D. It looks kind of like sprite-ish looking. Look at that. That's weird. So yeah, let's we got one more final batch of games to check out, and from there, that would be it for the PlayStation collection for PS1. So yeah, let's check out the last batch. Alright, and for our final batch, let's check out what we have here. We have a obscure copy of Descent, most commonly played on MS-DOS. On American PCs. Who would ever think that you would find a Japanese PlayStation copy of this game? It's really, really weird. Then we have Intelligent Cube. Came in this thick case. It has a really thick manual. Now remember back in the day, for whatever reason, in my area, where I used to live, this was really expensive. The American copy. Probably like late 90s, early 2000. That game was like close to $100 for some reason. I have no idea why. It's like, what's that, Funkoland? You have King of Crusher. This is a really weird game where you can basically go around crushing pretty much anything. And yeah, I think I made a video on this. I'm not sure if it released or not, but keep an eye out for this video because that game is really weird. And this is basically Fist of the North Star. You see the Japanese translation right there in English, which is quite a bit of stuff to be reading. And this is like a beat 'em up game. Now this game right here has no English translation whatsoever. It's made by Jinky, so I'm thinking that it's probably a racing game of some sort. Probably like a Tokyo Highway Battle or Extreme Racer or something like that. And then we have one of my favorite games right here. Look at this. How can you resist that? It's Nyan the Wonderful. And basically you take care of either a cat or a dog. You adopt a cat or a dog. And you basically, in a very PlayStation fashion, you play with your dog and you feed them and you take care of them. Or a cat, one or the other. It's actually pretty cool. And then of course we have another Olympics game for the PlayStation made by Konami, and it's a sports game, as you can see there. And I don't exactly know which the translation for this is, because you can see it's Japanese, like all the way around, so there's no like English translation for that. Although I'm willing to bet that probably released in the US. Then we have Battle Tushiden, and I believe this is the first one. 1995, so I'm pretty confident that this is the first game right here. And then we have ourselves Mobile Suit Z Gundam. I'm assuming this is some sort of Gundam game, of course, obviously. And it's probably more action-based. And what do we have here? We have ESPN Street Games. And this is basically like 1 Extreme, 2 Extreme, that type of deal. Probably the same exact game, but they had to call it something else instead. And then we have Suru Get You, and this is basically the Japanese copy of Ape's Escape. And back then, this was like one of the first games that utilized both analog joysticks. And Sony made a big, huge deal out of that. You can see right there. I remember when this game first came out, it was a huge deal that you can fully use the analog joysticks. and it basically pushed the PlayStations to its edge because, of course, the N64 and the Saturn did not have that option. Even the Dreamcast only had one stick. You have a obscure, strange copy of Matt Hoffman Pro BMX, a Japanese copy. Now, this is normally something that you would see in North America and Europe, but apparently there is a Japanese copy of this game, and here it is. Something that we can definitely check out in the future. And of course, you cannot own a Japanese PlayStation collection without owning this game right here, Dragon Ball Final Bout. I remember years ago, back in the late 90s, people that owned a PlayStation, the game that they would import would probably be this one right here. And it's basically a Dragon Ball Z fighting game, highly acclaimed and popular back in the day. And it went for a lot of money back then. I remember people paying probably over $60 for that game. Of course, back then it was probably close to full price. Now we have a Street Fighter 03 for the PlayStation. I would much rather own the Sega Saturn copy, but this copy is a lot more affordable. I do have Street Fighter 01 and 2 and Street Fighter 02 Strike on the Sega Saturn. But this is Street Fighter 03 and it's a lot more affordable. And of course we have Project Horned Owl, and as you saw earlier in the video, I own an American copy of this game. But I decided to buy the Japanese copy as well because I like the game that much. And finally you can see a screenshot of it. It's like 2D sprites, but it's a light gun game. And it reminds me of kind of like a Mega Man type thing where you can charge up your weapon and then let it blast the enemy. But it has a lot of cool stages. There's a lot of cool stuff in this game. So this is one game that I strongly recommend. I think it's pretty cool. Have to check that out someday. Then once again, the obscurity and weirdness continues. We have a Japanese copy of Alien Trilogy. And who would ever even think that you would even come across this? And basically this is a first-person shooter. It's basically something very similar to what you would see on the Alien vs. Predator game for the Atari Jaguar. Like, that's probably the closest thing to what this is right here. And who would even imagine that you would even find a Japanese copy of that game? And here it is. It's really weird. So then we found a copy of Doom, even another strange thing right here, for the PlayStation, a Japanese copy. And you can see on the label art there is like no blood at all. So there's a bezel flash blasting through your enemy right there, but there's no blood. Now if that was an American copy, there would be blood. There would be blood all over that box art. And here we have some screenshots, and you can see the screenshots keep it nice and clean, no blood, nothing crazy going on. But of course, when you play the game, there is plenty of blood. So yeah, this is a really weird, obscure copy of Doom on the PlayStation. And then of course, we have Final Doom, another Japanese copy here. And there's really nothing to be seen on the front. And I made a video on both of those games, so if you guys want to check it out, if you look on my channel, there is a video of Final Doom and Doom, the Japanese copies. And it's really weird. You can definitely see a little bit of blood right there. That's a little small screenshot. It's definitely something that you probably snuck by. So over in Japan, they like to censor stuff like that. And that is pretty much it. That is, let me just take a double look just to make sure. I'm pretty confident that that is my whole PlayStation collection. I don't think that there's any more. So here I am looking around. I don't think I have any more PlayStation games. And well, I think that's it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, and if you kept count, let me know down below how many PlayStation games I own, because I have no idea. And currently I'm probably collecting, I'll probably still collect Japanese PlayStation games for now on, because I have way too many American games. If I come across an American game that I really want, then I'll, like, for example, Twisted Metal Part 1, I'll definitely pick that up if I come across it for a good price. So yeah, stay tuned, and if you enjoyed this episode of Memory Lane, don't forget to give a thumbs up and comment down below. And let me know what collection you want me to show off next. I got the NES, the Atari 2600, and if you missed out, I showed off the Super Nintendo collection a couple days ago. Don't forget to watch that. I will definitely show off my Dreamcast collection if you want. And if you missed out on the Sega Saturn collection, I showed that off like last week. I also have a PS2 collection I could show off, a Nintendo Switch collection, Wii U, GameCube, 3DS, an original Xbox collection. So yeah, you got the Game Boy and Game Gear, all that stuff. So down below, let me know what you might be interested in seeing.